All right, welcome back everyone to another episode of StormWatch. I'm your host John Willis here with my co-host Brad Willis, and we are going to be doing a brief recap or catch up, if you will, of where we are up until this point in the month of March. As of recording, this is March 17th. The Hurricanes got off to
John, no, it's St. Patrick's Day.
You're right. It is St. Patrick's Day. So hope everyone had a good St. Patrick's Day. It was a festive one for the Hurricanes.
Yep.
We'll get into that here in just a moment. But to start the month, they did suffer a defeat at the hands of the Winnipeg Jets. That was a 5-3 defeat. This one was sort of a collapse by the Hurricanes themselves, as they did have a 3-goal lead going into the third period. But they would bounce back a few days later, actually 4 days later, quite a long break there, slightly abnormally long break. Mm-hmm. They would take on the Montreal Canadiens at home and beat them by a final score of 4-1. And then they would face the New Jersey Devils in New Jersey just 2 days later, beating them by a score of 4-2. That would be followed with a game in Carolina against Calgary. Yeah. That one was a whooping of the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, that
7-2.
Was lopsided for sure.
Yep, 7-2. There was not much doubt in that game, from kind of the beginning. And then the Rangers did give the Hurricanes the second loss of the month with a 1-0 defeat, but definitely a very even game overall. Hurricanes then got some vengeance for their defeat last year at the hands of the Florida Panthers in the playoffs and ended up beating them 4-0, shutting them out after getting shut out themselves. 2 days later, they would go on to face Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto. A good comeback victory, a very exciting Cardiac Kane-style victory. Yes. And they come back and win that one 5-4 in a shootout. Cenk Gensel actually gets his first unofficial goal as a Hurricane. Unofficial as in it's a shootout winner, but he was the one to secure the win for the Hurricanes. And then today on St. Patrick's Day, the Hurricanes did have a little luck of the Irish and went on to win 7-2 versus the Ottawa Senators in Ottawa. So both of their back-to-backs this month, New Jersey and Calgary, which was last Saturday and Sunday, and then this Saturday and Sunday, Toronto versus Hurricanes, and then the Senators versus the Hurricanes. Both of those, they got all 4 wins out of those. So just a really good month so far for the Hurricanes, and then sandwiched in between the Montreal Canadiens game and the New Jersey Devils game was, of course, the trade deadline. There being on March 8th, the Hurricanes did secure the biggest fish of the trade market, which was Jake Gensel, of course. His impact with the team has already been felt. As I mentioned, he did get the shootout winner against the Maple Leafs, and then actually got a goal today as well, so we'll discuss here shortly. Mm-hmm. Kuznetsov was also brought onto the team. But yeah, it's been a really exciting month for the Hurricanes so far, but I did want to have a specific focus on the 3 most recent games, which should be the most recent games in everyone's minds. 3 straight wins for the Hurricanes, 4-0 win versus the Florida Panthers, so let's go ahead and get into it. The total shots were 35-21 for the Hurricanes. Faceoffs were 56-43%. Seth Jarvis opens up the scoring for the Hurricanes in the first period. In the second, Martin Necas and Evgeny Kuznetsov would both get that line on the scoreboard. And then in the third period, Andrei Svechnikov with an empty net goal. He's a bit of a poacher this season, his 17th of the season, his 4th empty net goal on the season.
Yeah. So that was Anderson versus Bobrovsky. Anderson gets a shutout. He goes to 7-1 on the year. I like what the Canes are able to do and just alternate goalies.
Yeah.
If you look at the game, they're just flip-flopping Kochetkov and Anderson. It's working out well.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the plan from here on out until the playoffs. And then going into the playoffs, you give it to the hotter hand, which appears to be, at this moment, Kochetkov. Just statistically, he's playing just a little bit better. He seems to be making slightly more difficult saves. That being said, Anderson's 8-1 on the season.
8-1.
So it's fantastic.
So here's another stat about Anderson, because he also got the win in Ottawa, which you'll talk about in a second. In NHL history, the top 3 winning percentage goalies Ken Dryden, number 1. Ken Dryden was at like 745.
Wait, what are
Number
you talking?
2 is Freddie Anderson.
Is this? I'm sorry. Number of what is this stat you're reading off?
The win percentage by goalies. The percentage of the time that when they start, they get to win.
Oh, okay.
Anderson is second.
Really?
Yep, here they are. Dryden is 758. Anderson is 675. And Vasilevsky is 663. And I thought, oh, well, yeah, Anderson's got probably lower samples. No, Anderson had the most games of all 3 of those.
Wow.
I know.
What a stat.
It's amazing. And he went 9-1 now on the year.
Yeah. Is it 9-1 or is he still 8-1? Regardless,
no, he 8-1. Yeah.
Regardless,
8-1.
he's playing great, and he looked really good again tonight. But he looked particularly good against the Florida Panthers. He did get that shutout. Hurricanes did a really good job just across the board this game. They played the Panthers extremely tough. They were physical, but not overly physical. They didn't get too hot headed by any means. Yeah, just a really good play, a really good game overall. And Kuznetsov, good to see his first as a Hurricane. He gives the little crane bird celebration, which was fun to see. Yeah,
it's awesome.
It was really fun. Rod had a good quote after the game talking about how he hated seeing the damn bird. Anytime he would see it against the Hurricanes, but now that he's a Hurricane, he loves it. So I love it too.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that game other than, ooh, man,
no,
always fun to beat Florida?
I think it was, I don't know, I wouldn't call it a statement game, but it showed that the Canes are going to compete. They were physical that game because Florida was going to be physical. So it's good to see us rise to the occasion, I guess, from the physical side.
Yes, absolutely. We were definitely rising to the occasion on this game. The Panthers were the sharper team for the first 10 minutes, but then the Hurricanes turned it on and kind of, once they took the lead, there was no relenting.
So I want to make a prediction. I was thinking about it today as I was watching the Florida game, and obviously after having watched the Rangers game.
Hurricanes have shut out the Florida Panthers the past 2 times they've played them, 1-0 and 4-0.
Yeah, they're not going to score against us this year.
Yeah. Hurricanes have scored 7 goals on the season series so far. 7 goals against Florida's 5 goals. They did get 5 goals in the first game against us. They beat us the first game.
But what I was going to say, after watching the Rangers and the Panthers and watching how the Canes, I am predicting that the winner of the Stanley Cup will be a Metro Division team.
So you don't think the Florida Panthers are as highly touted as maybe they should, or as good as they are, according to the pundits?
I mean, they got beaten Tampa. Was it today or yesterday? They're not having a good run of it. They had some stretch, but they're starting to. I don't know if they're getting tired or teams are just willing to stand up to them. I don't know, but I just think in a 7-game series, I think they're beatable.
I think they're beatable too.
Yeah,
we almost beat them every single game we played them last series.
Right,
but yeah, I mean. The game that we beat them before this, the 1-0 game, that was a particularly close game. That was just, I still think that's probably the best game I've seen all year.
Yeah.
That 1-0 win versus the Florida Panthers earlier. This one was very fun because, add a little insult to injury. But let's move on to the Toronto Maple Leafs game.
Yes.
Or should I say Toronto St. Pat's, as they were wearing their green jerseys. So kind of cool to see the Hurricanes back-to-back games, away games, but wearing their black home jerseys on those away games. They actually get scoring started with John Tavares, followed by William Nylander, followed by Nicholas Robertson, all within about a 6-7 minute span in the second period. And by that point, by the time they had gotten their third goal, it was already more than halfway through the game. The Hurricanes did respond fairly quickly after that. About a minute and a half later, Jordan Martinook would make it 3-1. And then in the final seconds of the second period, Seth Jarvis with a power play goal puts home a Jake Gensel rebound. So that's 3-2 going into the third period. In the third period, David Kampf would go ahead and make it 4-2 for the Maple Leafs, but the Hurricanes never gave up on this game. And with just less than 2 minutes to go, they scored both the 26th and 27th goal for Sebastian Aho, one of them being on the power play, 6-on-4, the other one being 6-on-5. And that one was a deflection with less than 6 seconds to go. So,
yeah, phenomenal game.
Yeah, really good game, and it's the type of games that you really, we're winning all sorts of games recently, right? We're winning the games where we're just, being the team that's dominant from beginning to end, a la the game versus the Panthers, and then the next game we're about to talk about, the Ottawa Senators, just pretty much dominant throughout, right? The Maple Leafs, I don't think, are a better team than the Hurricanes, but they're always a very dangerous team. And anytime you give up a 3-goal lead with less than half the game to play, you would expect to come out of that with a loss. But not only do they get the point, they also get the win in the shootout, which is another thing that they've consistently struggled with this season.
Right.
Kuznetsov almost gets his to go, but he doesn't with his little slow crawl approach.
Yeah.
But luckily, Jake Gensel, being the fourth shooter, does get it to go after Pyotr Kochetkov has a nice poke check save on Ty Domi to eliminate his third and final shooter. So, yeah, just a great win for the Hurricanes. I didn't expect them to win this game. Like I said, when I looked at the score halfway through, luckily I was able to catch the end of this game, and it was an exciting one.
Yeah. So my 3 takeaways of this game. Mm-hmm. One is kind of more of a theme, and that is all 4 of the St. Pat's goals were on neutral zone turnovers.
They were all neutral zone turnovers, and they were all more or less breakaways. Yeah. The third one there from Robertson was kind of a half breakaway turned into a broken opportunity. Tavares couldn't quite make it a breakaway, but he does find Robertson in the slot. And I don't fault Kochetkov on all 4 goals. He gives up 4 goals in this game, but he was phenomenal in this game. Yeah. He made a lot of good saves in this game.
So that was my second takeaway.
Especially in the shootout, too.
My second takeaway is Piotr's compete level.
Oh, you're talking about like where he had one where he dropped the stick and he's kind of over at the end. I believe it's at the end of overtime.
Just in general, and the poke check is a good example. He's always competing, no matter how many goals have been scored against him.
Yeah,
and for a young guy, a rookie, he's a rookie. It's his rookie season.
Yeah.
That was, and then the final thing is Sebastian Aho.
Yeah. So that guy wants to win more than anybody else in the world. He's a phenomenal competitor.
Yeah, that's what they said. Was the announcers were saying Aho was on the ice for like the final 2.5 minutes of regulation.
Yeah, that probably adds up. Yeah.
And they were just amazed. He's not going. And then he started the overtime.
Yeah.
They were just amazed.
And that was an exciting overtime. It was back and forth for the beginning of it. And then they called Jake Gensel for a penalty there, which I didn't see a slash. Yeah. I don't know about that one. But anyways, Kochetkov was great in the overtime period as well. And Jake Gensel gets the winner. He actually had two assists in the game, but then also got his the goal that sealed the deal. So
the shootout winner. Yep.
Yeah, okay, they're winning. Like I said, they're winning all types of games. And then another type of game that they've been winning is just that domination.
Front to end,
front to back, however you want to call it.
Oh, the game was very competitive. The first period, especially, and even in the second period. But I don't know, but we just wore them down. But there was a rapid succession of goals in the last half of the game. I think in the final half of the game, we scored 5 goals.
Yeah. It was 1-1 at the end of the first period. The Dmitry Orlov got it started with he was on fire tonight. He was all over the ice. He was definitely my first star of the game. Let's see if he got the first star overall. First star of the game. He had 2 goals and 2 assists. Sebastian Aho was your second star of this game. He had 3 assists, and then Jake Gensel with an assist and a goal himself, along with Jalen Chatfield, who also had a goal and assist. So that Orlov and Chatfield pairing was definitely the most dynamic part of today's game. Shots were 38-32 for Carolina in this one. They were 1 for 3 on the power play. Dmitry Orlov, like I said, got the scoring started in the first period with a beautiful little breakaway. Brendan Lemieux with a nice pass. Lemieux took a penalty, then goes into the box. The Canes kill off that penalty. As he comes out of the box, he gets the puck, passes it to a streaking up the ice Orlov. Orlov, no hesitation from the middle of the slot, just rings it off the post, glove side over Forsberg. Beautiful, beautiful goal. Then Thomas Chabot would get the game tied back up for the Ottawa Senators with a really nice shot, basically a snipe from the corner. Anderson maybe played a little bit small on this one, but it was just a really beautiful shot. So, tough to really fault him too much on this one, but it was a tough angle. In the second period, Evgeny Kuznetsov would get his second as a Hurricane, this one being on the power play. Really great net front from Stefan Nason on this one. Brady Shea and Dmitry Orlov with the assists. And then Tim Stützle would answer just a couple minutes later with his 17th of the season. He burned Chatfield on this one. Little nice toe drag around him. Anderson was screened on this one, beat him off the post, glove side as well. So a lot of shots in and off the post today for both teams. But that would be the last goal of the game for the Senators. Seth Jarvis would then, with his second back-to-back game with a late period goal in the second period. This one with 19:38 already expired in the second period. Jalen Chatfield then in the third period with his 7th of the season from Aho and Orlov. Then Orlov with his 5th of the season from Svech and Kuznetsov. This one was just a howitzer of a slap shot.
That was a blast.
That was absolutely blast from the point. This one again off the post and in. And then Jake Gensel with showing what he can do. Finally, with some time and space, he again puts it glove side over Forsberg. And then Brendan Lemieux, happy to see him get on the board. It being his birthday and everything, so happy birthday to him.
Happy birthday.
He had a goal and an assist as well. So yeah, you had a lot of good players, a lot of players factor in and have prominent roles today. I will say Svechnikov was a little bit absent, I think, this game and maybe even a little bit of last game. So I'd like to see him get a little bit more activated, but it's not like he's at Kokoniemi levels or anything like that yet. Yeah. So it's not exactly a big reason for concern.
Yeah. So Orlov was actually my second star in the Florida Panthers game. So he's definitely stepped his game up. The Orlov slap shot came after some
a really good puck work.
Cycling, puck control in the ozone. Same as actually when Chatty scored his wrister. We had control in the ozone, and we just found Chatty slashing toward the center. Really good game by the Canes. The announcers made a comment late in the game how we were still forechecking and we were relentless. But John, like I told you, as I'm watching the game, and the skill level I'm seeing with the new guys, and I think it's raising the skill level of our regulars. It's, to me, and you disagree, I know, but to me, it just shows that maybe Natchez isn't up to the speed as Kuznetsov.
So here's my thing with Natchez, and I've always said this: his hands are just not as fast as his feet, and I don't think they ever will be.
That's a good way of saying
it. Now, a person that I like to compare Natchez to is actually on the Senators is Tim Stützle, because he's very, very fast, but his hands are much better than Natchez's hands, okay? The toe drag he had, the shot he had, and Anderson Actually had a very, very tough save for the first shot of the game. I don't know if you remember, but Stützle kind of, with speed, brings it across the crease, and Anderson has the slide from left to right, and luckily he makes a really good save on it.
Yeah, because Stützle couldn't elevate the puck. Otherwise, he has a goal.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I personally have seen I think the chemistry between Natchez and Kuznetsov is undeniable. Even before Gensel got there, and he didn't play as much with them this game. It was more of a Jarvis, Aho, Gensel line, at least to start the game. But I'm really liking the chemistry between them all. And I do think that Natchez is still responsible defensively and is a good partner for Kuznetsov, at least for the time being, until Kuznetsov can kind of learn the system and become a little bit more defensively responsible himself. I don't know. I think give it time, and you're just going to see more and more good things out of the Kuznetsov, Natchez, and whoever they pair them with. I think those two, are pretty solid pairing.
I mean, the early returns to me say that Don Waddell hit this one out of the ballpark.
Yes, agreed.
Really, really, and it was the last day, wasn't it? It was like the last minute. Oh, we got Jay Getzel. Oh, by the way, we signed Evgeny Kuznetsov.
Yeah, because we got Gensel the day before the trade deadline, and then the deadline itself was Kuznetsov. I think that's how it played out. And a couple other things to mention, just kind of along that same front. We also did re-sign Lemieux and Spencer Martin, Brendan Lemieux and Spencer Martin, both to 1-year deals for next year at a league minimum. So no risk to either of those, but just good guys to have in the lineup in case something does happen, in case you do need to bring a little bit of physicality to the game. And Brendan Lemieux, he brings a little bit more than that. I mean, I don't know how many games the guys played.
Did you see the pass he had today?
To Orlov?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great pass. Yeah. He's a good player, man. Yeah. So yeah, kind of going back to that, what you mentioned about Waddell. Waddell has done a fantastic job. The roster is as deep as it's been in the past 5 years. There's no questions about that. But with all that depth, how do you see the lines playing out when everyone's healthy? And most of the team is healthy right now, but the one critical missing element right now is Turbo, and then Drury, of course, if he's able to get back into the lineup.
Yeah. When you talk about lines, I'm always, there's a lot of ways to look at it, but so what is the purpose of that line? What is their job? So Stahl and Marty, that line is to be disruptive forecheckers, and they'll let Jarvis come in and get some goals out of, because Martinook and Stahl aren't going to give you any goals, but they're going to create opportunities.
Well, Martinook's really hot since the new year,
and where's he getting his goals? He's getting greasy goals. That's great line.
That's how he always does. Yes. Oh,
They keep the opponents down in their end.
Yes.
And then you've got Aho and Turbo and Svetch, which are a little bit more flashy, a little bit higher talent level. Svetch can be physical on that line. Turbo's a very good, underrated defender, I think, for a forward.
Oh, definitely.
And Aho's Aho. He's all over the place. He plays both ends of the ice equally well, a high elite level. So now what do? You're talking Kuznetsov, Natchez, and Gensel, I guess, would be line number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right now. My only concern,
we've seen that line to get in action for a couple games at least.
Yeah. I guess I don't have really any that big of concerns, other than maybe that's not that physical of a line.
Wait, what's your first line pairing first,
and then go to Saravainen and Svechnikov.
And Svech. Okay, cool. Yep.
And then Kuznetsov, Natchez, and Gensel.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I would maybe think as the first pairing. I think they are going to try to get Gensel and Aho together on a line. Now they tried working him in with Jarvis today, which we know Jarvis and Aho play well together. Svech and Aho seemed to have cooled off a little bit recently. I mean, Svechnikov is still having he's still, like I said, he had a point today. He had an empty net goal the other against Florida, so he's getting on the scoreboard. It's not like he's completely gone, but
and he
maybe he seems to be in a kind of a little bit of a rut, a mini rut.
If you put, and we talked about maybe you move Svetch to be with Kuznetsov, because then now
they tried that today.
There's some Russian chemistry. How'd it go today?
It was okay. I mean, it was Natchez, Svetch, and Kuznetsov.
Yeah.
They had their moments. But yeah, I think the Gensel, Jarvis, Aho line was more impactful. Even the Stahl, Martinook, and Fast line, I think was pretty impactful today. The defenders were great today, so that a large part of the offense came from the defense today.
Yeah. So, so now we're stuck with what is our fourth line? What is the purpose of the fourth line?
Well, what's your
What do
third
we
line?
expect them to
Martinook,
do?
Stahl. What's your third line? Martinook, Stahl, and
Jarvis.
Jarvis. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
then your fourth line is Fast, Drury, or Fast, KK, and Nason, and then maybe Drury when he comes back.
what you do? Swap out KK and Drury every other game, see how it goes, or
I think you. I mean,
so here's
I don't
the
know.
thing.
The thing is with KK, you know what you get, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna be defensively responsible. He generally makes the kind of simple, smarter play with the puck.
He's
not really
energetic.
adding anything on a
right. So look at that line. You've got Nason, who arguably is a pretty good playmaker when he has the puck.
Yes,
but you have to have a playmaking partner crashing the net, and who else? KK doesn't do that.
No, but Fast will go to the dirty areas, and Fast has been playing pretty well. Yeah, Fast has been playing pretty well recently, especially with that line. I think it was against Florida. He had an excellent game.
But John, if you think about it, like if you look at that line, I assume Nason's the highest scorer on that line, and he doesn't really try to be a scorer. He rather assists, and then he gets some greasy goals.
Yeah, I mean he's a great around the net guy.
Yeah,
passing, shooting, whatever. He'll poke at a puck and put it in the net.
So what? Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is on that line, I don't see a good partner for Nason.
Yeah, it's
Drury can get in that slot. Fast can get in that slot. But
I've got another hypothetical here. Let me go through mine and let me see what you think about this because it maybe does answer the Nason question.
Okay.
I wanted to go something a little bit different. Some things we definitely haven't seen so far. Mostly because Turbo's been out, but Gensel, Aho, and Jarvis, right? We saw a little bit of that today. I think there's something there maybe. Then maybe Turbo, Kuzi, and Svetch.
Yeah.
Okay, so something like that. Now, the one kind of fear with that is you've got two guys who can't stand to shoot the puck in Turbo and Kuznetsov. Both of them are just pass. But Svechnikov, of course, does love to shoot it. Yeah. And I do think if you put two super pass first guys on a line, one of them is going to get the mentality that I got to shoot eventually.
Well, and you would hope that their passing is so elite that they can't help but shoot because it's a one-time.
Right, because exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So I think something like that could be effective. Turbo, very defensively responsible. Yes. Svetch can be from game to game. And then Kuznetsov, I think, every game I've seen from him, I've seen one or two instances where I'm like, maybe a little bit more effort in the defensive zone could be good there, but he's adding so much on the offensive side, it's definitely making up for it. So I'm not really concerned or harping on him about that. Then a line we have seen, of course, is the Fast, Stahl, Martinook line.
Right
now, that's a opportunity there where you can get a little bit creative because that's where I'm struggling to Martinook and Stahl. I think in all the combinations we've talked about so far have always been together, right?
Yeah.
But you can break them up. They're not married. They don't have to be on the same line. So you can do some more interesting things there, but I just don't know who really fits well with Stahl because, unfortunately Stahl is a lot slower than a lot of the other guys on the team. Now he's defensively the best out of all the guys we're talking about here. And from a shutdown perspective, he's great at that. I think him and Martinook and Jarvis have been really effective, and Jarvis is still being offensively, productive, and Martinook still is getting goals. So there's nothing wrong with that line, but maybe you do just go back to Martinook, Stahl, and Fast. That way you open up Nason, Drury, and Natchez, which is a line we've seen before and has been effective at times this season. We've only seen them for, shorter periods of time. But I think that can be an effective line as well. Drury, Nason, and Natchez. Yeah.
That would have much more.
All three of those guys played together in the AHL.
Huh? They have much more firepower than any fourth line we've had all year. If you move Natchez down there.
Right. Now, the other part with spreading it out that much though is okay. Well, if you spread it out that much, then how much time do you give each of those lines? Because by bumping Natchez down that far on the lineup, you're arguably pulling away more offensive talent for larger chunks of the game, right? Rather than concentrating your offensive firepower at the top lines where they are going to get more minutes. So, but that's kind of the trade-off.
There's a strategy there too, because if it's fourth line versus fourth line, now you've got Natchez playing against fourth liners.
Right. That's a very good point.
Yeah. I mean, he could skate all over him.
Right. Yeah. Even if his hands can't keep up, his feet certainly will. So, he'll be able to push the puck around the guy.
That's really idea. That's a good idea. So why don't you call the coach and let him know your thoughts?
Yeah. I'll get in touch with Rod. But let's give credit to Don Waddell for putting this lineup together. It's been what the Hurricanes fans have been wanting and clamoring for, especially the past 2 seasons.
It's so solid.
We know we've had a good lineup going into the playoffs, but I mean, we just had significant trouble coming up with 4 lines. Not because there's anything lacking, but because there's too much to put on 4 lines. Right. That's a great problem to have.
The biggest, one of the biggest, outside of the additions of the very high elite skill players, is our goaltending seems to be settled now.
Yeah. Yep.
These guys are good goaltenders.
Yep. So there's plenty of reason for optimism. The forwards, obviously, we just touched on, and then the goaltenders are amazing right now. Kochetkov is playing lights out. I know his last game he gave up 4 goals, but they were all on breakaways or pretty much on breakaways. You don't fault him for any of those. The game before that, Anderson had a shutout. The game before that was a loss to the Rangers, 1-0. Shesterkin got outplayed by Kochetkov. Kochetkov was the better goaltender in that game.
Yeah.
And so, that's extremely encouraging when you say that you lost, but your goaltender was still better than Igor Shesterkin.
Yeah.
So, just tons of reasons to be optimistic as a Hurricanes fan. The penalty kill is really strong.
23 straight kills.
23 straight kills. That's fantastic. The power play is going through a little bit of a transitionary period, but we are still getting goals out of it. Like I said, they were, 1-on-3. Will you pull up the Senators game stats? It's giving me trouble for whatever reason.
Yeah, I got it. But what do you need?
I just want to know what the power play was. We were 40% versus
power play was where is it? They were 0 for 2. We were 1 for 3. Kuznetsov's goal was a power play goal.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
So, you get 3 power play goals in the last 2 games. I'm not overly concerned. It's just, it was clicking at a super high rate. I think once they figure out who's playing what bumper position on which power play and, just a little bit of smoothing out of some creases, but Hurricanes are firing on all cylinders. It's a Category 5. They're cooking with oil, gas, and gravy.
Yeah.
They look great right now.
It's really nice to see. A couple of things I want to talk about. One is Sheldon Keefe. I don't know if he had this game plan in mind, but that obviously is something other teams will go to school on. The fact that if the Canes turn over the puck in the O-zone, they're vulnerable because of the aggressiveness of their D-men.
Can be, yeah.
I mean, all 4 goals that Toronto scored. Toronto, they should have never lost the game. Never, ever in 100 years.
Yeah.
That was very.
They took advantage of early mistakes by the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
And then they weren't able to hold on, and they really should have.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is the Canes swept the season series against Ottawa, outscoring Ottawa 16-6.
Woo! Yeah.
That's a bummer. I want to see a team like Ottawa be successful, and
they will. It's only a matter of time for them.
Listen.
I think you're going to start to see the Islanders steadily drop out. We'll see what happens with New Jersey. They might also
the biggest underachiever this year.
They got tons of
in
injuries right now for sure. They're definitely underachieving on top of those injuries. But I'm thinking Senators and Buffaloes are on the up and up. Islanders and Devils may be on the down and down. I mean, I think this season the Islanders are going to make the playoffs. I think the Sabres are going to be on the outside. I think the Senators definitely are going to be on the outside.
Yeah.
I mean, the hunt's on for Buffalo. They're not completely out of it.
Oh, they're out of it. They're way out of it.
They're not. They're like 4 or 5 points out of it, and I think they have, maybe.
I'm going to look at it now.
There's still plenty of games left.
So going into the season in the East, I want to talk about the Western Conference. Going in the season, there's 3 teams they thought may go up: Detroit, Buffalo, and the Sens. Right? They're kind of all in the middle of a rebuild or a partial rebuild, and they had decent years last year. People thought, okay, maybe they can come up and bump somebody off. I don't think any of those 3 are in the playoffs right now. The only one team that has gone into the playoffs that wasn't there is the Philadelphia Flyers, and they weren't expected to be there.
Right.
And okay, I'm sorry. So now it's the Red Wings.
Red Wings are still holding on to a spot.
Yeah. The Capitals, though, are only 1 point behind. Talk about a team coming out of nowhere. The Sabres are 9 points behind. No, excuse me, 5 points, like you said. But they've got to go over 1, 2, 3, 4 teams.
Yeah.
To make the playoffs.
Yeah, Penguins are still holding on by a thread too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think actually, now that I'm looking at it, if anyone actually has a chance, it's the Capitals, only because they got a couple more games on hand and they're only 1 point behind Detroit. Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting finish in the East.
Look at the last 10 for Detroit.
What's that?
You got the schedule up. You got the standings up.
I've got the standings up. I don't have the schedule up.
Last 10 for Detroit.
Last 10.
Yeah.
Ooh,
2 and 8.
2, 8, and 2 and 8. Yeah.
Yeah, they're falling fast.
They are skidding.
Yeah, the Flyers are having trouble too. They're 4, 5, and 1. But there's no one in the Atlantic, or excuse me, there's no one in the Metro except the next team down in the Metro is what? The Capitals?
Yeah. Well, let's just take a look at this real quick. The Hurricanes scored 3 goals, then 4 goals, then 4 goals, then 7 goals, then 0 goals, then 4, then 5, then 7. So that's just within this past month. They are offensively, they're playing great. And the one game that they got shut out was by Shesterkin.
Yeah, so I don't know if you watch the Hockey Guy. I tried to stay up for his Saturday night power rankings.
I watched it. I was a little disappointed by
the
results.
This is the first time I just totally disagree with him.
Yeah, I thought he was a little bit off base, but you also have to remember he does them on Saturday night. So I feel like with the result today, we're definitely back up at number 3. I don't know how well Florida bounced back after we beat them, but I do think they did bounce back. So he's probably counting on the fact that they've been playing a little bit better, leading up to
Florida
this.
Got beat by Tampa Bay after we beat them.
Really?
Yeah.
After we beat them.
Yeah, I don't understand how he kept them above us, and the only loss that we had was to the team that was above us, and we only lost by 1 goal. Then he goes on to say, well, the same problem with the Hurricanes are not scoring enough goals. Well, you just read off all the goals we've been scoring.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell he's smoking up there.
Yeah, he needs a little bit of an adjustment there, I think.
I think he just got into a groove expecting that this is how it was going to be.
Yeah.
And he got enamored of the fact that Colorado's playing so well, and that's why he
Colorado,
said that.
Colorado is playing well, but Hurricanes are playing, like I said, Category 5, oil, gas, and gravy, all of it. Yeah. They're firing on all cylinders. Power play looks decent. Penalty kill is excellent. Goaltending, defense, offense, everything looks great. So let's go ahead and just take a quick look at the schedule for the rest of the month.
4 games a week. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's like this for every team right now. I don't know why they do this. It's like they try to add up a little bit of drama going into the playoffs by making sure that there's going to be a handful of injuries at the end of the year or something like that. So New York Islanders, we play on the 19th, then followed by the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Washington Capitals. So we could have a pretty big hand in the fate of those three teams, as those three teams are all vying for playoff spots. Then we take on the Toronto Maple Leafs one last time, see if we can go ahead and sweep the season series. I have actually tickets to that game. Then we take on the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Detroit Red Wings. Again, two teams that are kind of right at the cusp of playoffs. And then to round out the month, we take on the Montreal Canadiens. So a fairly easy schedule looking at it for the rest of the month. So, the two losses were against high-end teams, playoff teams, and high-seeded playoff teams. Winnipeg, that's a game you kind of shoot yourself in the foot. You have that one in the bag. Yeah. That's a game you got to win. And then just, whatever. The Rangers played well. You run that game back. You play another 20 minutes. I think we come out on top. The one goal they had was, bounced off Brady Shea's boot and went in through Kochekov's.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Play that game again. We'll see what the result is. Again, we're losing to top teams. It's not like we're losing to, random teams right now. So let's see if we can go ahead and beat these schmucks that we got to face the rest of the month. The only real challenge being, again, one more game versus Toronto, and we've already beat them twice this season.
And that game's at the PNC Arena.
Yep.
It looks like all the home games for the rest of the month are against teams that are in the playoffs, and all the away games are with teams that aren't in the playoffs.
That's correct. As of right now.
That might help.
Yeah, that might change as we go through this month, though.
Well,
all those teams are kind of right on the bubble, as we mentioned. So, anything else you wanted to mention before we kind of close this out?
No, I'm fine. I'm just real excited for the team. I just, knock on wood, let's keep everyone healthy, because you know what happened last year with Fetch. It had a big impact on our season. But we are a more talented team going in my opinion. We're a more talented team going into the playoffs than we were last year.
We haven't had Teravainen these past two games. I don't know if he's going to join them for the game against the Islanders. I would suspect, just given that it's an away game, they probably just sit him out for that one too.
What's his injury?
I don't think they're doing disclosing this late in the season. You don't have
really? He's out.
Wow. Yeah, I mean it was nothing minor. Rod said it's day to day, so he'll be back. He'll be back soon. I would imagine he probably comes back for that Phillies game. Drury's got a little bit longer of a timetable. I think he's more of a week to week type of situation.
Okay.
A lower body injury there, but hopefully he makes a speedy recovery. But also, no need to rush him back. Let's make sure he's healthy for the playoffs. And but yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much all for watching and listening, and we really do appreciate it. We're gonna kind of switch up the format a little bit on these, try to make them a little bit more listenable. The frequency might change a little bit, might not be as regular as they once were. But yeah, we appreciate you listening, and look forward to speaking to you next time.
Happy St. Pat's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's. Arrivederci. Bye-bye.
Bye.